The AMR21 has been launched in a very glitzy ceremony online. Lawrence Barretto, great to see the car unveiled, resplendent in its British racing green, or is it Aston Martin green? What's the
Aston
correct
Martin Racing
determination for it?
Green, I think. Yeah, is what they call it.
It's looking great.
Yeah, and it was a great launch, as you said, like an old school F1 launch, and big names, Jim Martin obviously presenting. They even got Daniel Craig in on the acts. I loved it. I thought it was great. Car looks great. There seems like a massive amount of confidence heading into the season. It could be a good one.
Yeah, and after everything they achieved last season, why shouldn't there be confidence? But it wasn't a season that went entirely smoothly for them. Let's start then by looking back on 2020 and then looking forward towards what we can expect from them in 2021. Lawrence, this time last year, Racing Point unveiled a car which we dubbed a pink Mercedes. And from that point on, it was a very controversial year for them, being docked points, being fined, but ultimately being allowed to continue to run the debated parts on the back of the car. And they very nearly took third in the Constructors' Championship as a result.
Yes, like you said, difficult start to the year. Their heads were down. I think they were disappointed because they felt they had a great car, and everyone felt like for them was against them. But that back end of that year, with Checo obviously getting that victory, Lance challenging for a win in Turkey, and obviously getting that pole position, a fair few podiums too. I think that they should be reasonably happy with how that year ended. And who knows what could happen this year if they kind of carry it through. But I think overall, in that pink Mercedes, I think they did a great job.
Yeah, they really did, and they really sort of started to state their intentions. They'd always been the little team that could, the plucky underdogs who had, finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship despite not having the budget to compete with their major rivals. But time and again, if there was a podium that went begging, it was always theirs to take, seemingly. They have done so well with so little. Now they have the keys to the candy shop with Lawrence Stroll there as their owner. And last year seemed to me to be the creation of that platform for them to springboard them to the future.
It's not easy when you just get an extra pot of money to go and spend it wisely. For many years, they were very good at spending a little. The tendency could be when you get more money, just spend, 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 and not really direct it in the right way. But they seem like they took a really good step forward last year, with again very sensible with what they had. And that kind of helped make that progression. So if they keep going in that kind of way, especially with the budget cap kicking in this year, it sets them up very nicely.
It really does. And of course, that momentum, that drive, and that change, as seen at the team, managed to convince a four-time world champion to sign for them. So let's get into what has changed at the team in 2021. Well, let's start at the start, Lawrence. Sebastian Vettel is an Aston Martin racing driver. That's pretty incredible.
It's very, very cool. And from what we've seen from him so far, he's super excited. He spent about half an hour talking to written media earlier today, and he was relaxed in his chair, gave really long, thoughtful answers. When he said he's excited, you could see it in his eyes. You could see that spark, that kind of enjoyment in his face that he wants to get going. And I think he secretly feels inside that this could be a very special year. Like he's landed there at exactly the right time, with a car that could potentially be even better than many are expecting. So this could work out perfectly for us, Sebastian
Yeah.
Vettel.
I literally just got off a Zoom call chatting to him, and he said he sees some similarities between when Red Bull started and Dietrich Mateschitz and Lawrence Stroll and their whole ethos, and the way in which they're going about their racing. And I agree with you. I think he senses that excitement, that ability to create something really incredible with them. There is such a palpable feeling of expectation and
Mm-hmm.
excitement around the team.
And he's doing it without that pressure of Ferrari expectation they should win, doing it without the expectation that Red Bull world champions should be winning.
Yeah.
I think that taking that pressure off him is going to make a massive difference, and really it's a win-win situation for him here. And I think that might mean we might see the very best of Sebastian Vettel this year.
Yeah, and I think key to that is going to be enjoyment. He needs to enjoy
Mhm.
himself. He wants to enjoy himself. I think he'd lost a little bit of that love, and he had considered walking away from the sport, of course, last year. Is there anything else that has changed into 2021 at the team as things look, certainly from the outside? Certainly the major positions have all stayed almost the same.
Yes, but I think that continuity will be good. You know, they've got Andy Green still leading that technical department, and he's renowned throughout the paddock as someone who knows exactly what he's doing and can produce great racing cars. I think things like moving into their new factory is going to be important as they try and step it up. I think Otmar said they've got 25% more staff this year, so you know, just building in that way is important, isn't it? Because as you grow as a big team, you need the people to come with you.
Well, this is it. The increase in staffing numbers, despite the fact that it comes under a budget cap,
Yeah.
is a really big thing. But they are making those steps to becoming a big team. Their intentions, and as Lawrence Stroll said, their intentions are clear. They want to win the World Championship within 5 years. That is a very clear sign of intent. For the last 10 days, they've had a partner announcement a day. The influx of money is coming. The influx of people is there. They are setting themselves on a course, potentially, you know, if everything goes right, to be a major player.
Yes, and it's all about the foundations in Formula One, and it's going to take some time to get to that success, which is why he set that bracket, you know, 5 years or so until they achieve success. And if they do it beforehand, even better. I've been super impressed by how many sponsors or backers they've managed to get on board. It just shows the pull of that Aston Martin brand. And that's exactly what Lawrence wanted when he took over the team. You know, he's a businessman at heart, of course, and he wants to make money and be successful. And he seems to be applying business in a very sensible way to Formula One.
It's a Lawrence Stroll style business, a fantastic businessman and magnetic for companies to want to be involved with. Magnetic for people as well, as we saw at the launch, quite the spectacle. Let's see whether we actually learned anything, though, from all the razzmatazz. Tom Brady, Gemma Arterton, Santan Dave, Daniel Craig, but the real star of the show, Lawrence, was the AMR21. What did we learn about the car from today's launch?
I think, from my little humble eye, that this is the most dramatic and biggest change that we've seen of all the cars so far. I think it's great that they've revealed a lot more than, you know, the likes of Mercedes and Red Bull have, and Alpine to an extent, at their launch. There's lots of exciting details on there. That bulge, like Mercedes had on the engine cover. Lots of intricate details. I think that Andy Green said that they've changed their chassis as well.
Yeah, I think the 2 tokens have been spent on the chassis.
And I'm pretty sure they're going to be close to alone in doing that. And that could be a massive benefit for them this year.
Yeah, they've duct taped something on the front of the car. I think a vent in the nose. They've taped over that. No vanity panel there. All just sticks and tape over it. The rear of the car, very different. They took the free upgrade from Mercedes. So they have Mercedes 2020 rear end, as all customer teams were entitled to do, of course. Aston Martin deciding that they would take that Mercedes 2020 upgrade. So the very different rear suspension alignment back there.
And that, you know, when you change such a big, important area of the car, that could have a massive impact. You know, we saw Mercedes last year were arguably more dominant than they were the year before. So, you know, anything that they can take, Aston Martin can take from that, from their father team, mother team, whatever you want to call it, and pass it onto their car. But importantly, make it work with the package that they've got. Again, it just plays into that mindset that Sebastian Vettel's got, that, you know, things are looking pretty good this year.
Absolutely. They are no better time than to talk about the team's strengths and weaknesses. Well, Lawrence, I think it's safe to say the team has more strengths than weaknesses, but where would you pinpoint each?
I think the strengths are their consistency, in, like we've mentioned, in the staff. I think it's great that they've kept all their senior leadership team in place. They've been building that gradually, and they've been adding staff to grow their numbers at a gradual rate. So I think that they're doing everything right in that sense. Their strengths are that they've got a great car. You know, they've got all that Mercedes know-how in there, which is great for them. They've got the consistency also of Lance Stroll, so they can help compare last year into this year. And he seemed to be having a stronger end to last year as well. And then they've got a 4-time world champion. And personally, I think that's their greatest strength, is that they've got someone with that expertise, that understanding of how to go and win world championships. And they've got someone who's going to be hungrier than ever to prove that he's not over it, it's not done yet.
Yeah, I think one of their greatest strengths, Lawrence, is the fact that they have done so much with so little for so long, that coming in under a budget cap and actually being one of those teams that's leveling up to a budget cap means, as you were discussing earlier, they will know how to spend their money in the right place and not be wasteful with it, even though they've got a little bit extra. If there's one weakness, you talked about Lance Stroll and consistency. When I talked to him earlier today, he said that he'd been concentrating on improving his consistency. There were a few occasions last year when notably Sergio Perez had to miss a race. In Abu Dhabi, I'm thinking as well, when Sergio retired, when the mantle was handed to Lance to carry the team, he didn't step up, and he needs to maintain that consistency and pull his level up, I think, still, because he's not a rookie anymore.
No, he had peaks last year, but as you say, Will, they weren't common enough, they weren't consistent enough. And I think if they're going to continue to run Lance, into the near future, he is going to have to start developing and delivering results quicker and more consistently. Hopefully, having Sebastian in the car next to him will have a positive impact on him, and that will help drag the very best out of him. But I think it's a big year for him. I think he's got to start delivering, because his dad wants Aston Martin to succeed, and if he wants that to happen, Lance needs to kind of deliver his end of the bargain.
He is a quick driver. We know that much. If he just gets a bit of confidence and doesn't let his head drop when it gets difficult, he could be a really decent peddler inside that car. The strengths in it do seem outweigh the weaknesses. They so nearly came third in the Constructors' Championship last year, but with their sights set on podiums and victories, what would a good and a bad season look like?
I think P3 in the Constructors' Championship is exactly what Aston Martin are targeting this year. As Lance said during the presentation, they just missed out on it last year. I think that slow start to the year really hurt them in the end, and Lance's inconsistency hurt them. So I think P3 should be something that they should deliver really this year. Bearing in mind, we've also got Ferrari coming back, and with the resource that they've got, they could be a real challenge. If they want to be hitting those World Championships though in 5 years' time, P3 is the bare minimum, really, I think, this year, because they need to start learning to be a World Championship team. They need to operationally deliver when they get the chances. And I think that was a weakness last year, actually, having thought about it. So they need to kind of just be a bit more efficient in the way they run a race weekend and try and make the best out of it.
But of course, McLaren are saying the same thing. So to Alpine, it's going to be so tight this year. They all want third place, and Ferrari want to get back up into those, winning positions as well. McLaren pipped Racing Point to that third place, I should say, last year. Now they have the same engine partner. It's going to be an even tighter battle between the two potentially.
Yeah, you could say that McLaren really could kick on this year if they get everything right with their new package, and that will mean it'll be even tougher for Aston Martin to beat them. We don't really know what Alpine are going to deliver this time around. You mentioned resurgent Ferrari. I think AlphaTauri are going to be a real threat as well. In that competitive midfield, when you've got like P5 down to P16, so close, you can go from best to worst, in the blink of an eye.
Well, this is it, isn't it? The best possible outcome and the worst possible outcome for all of these midfield teams. Best is third, worst, seventh, possibly even eighth as the championship pans out. It's an absolutely fascinating prospect for a season ahead.
Yes, and for a team like Aston Martin, with the trajectory that they've got and the money they're putting in, seventh, eighth, down that way, it's just not acceptable. So there's big risks for them this year. It could be painful, and that's why they've got big expectation to deliver.
Amazing stuff. Can't wait to see how it all pans out. Another brilliant launch, and shall we say, Lawrence, another brilliant livery. I can't recall, certainly in 10 years or more, a grid of such beautiful looking cars.
No, it looked really cool. And like you said, with the Alpine livery yesterday, and we've got a couple more to come that could be different as well. It's going to look great, this grid this year. Like, great for a year that we all thought there was going to be a lot of consistency from one year to another. I think it's going to be great. I can't wait.
Can't wait. And Sam Collins will hate the fact that we are discussing livery and not the actual technical specs of the car. But of course, we don't know what the cars are probably going to look like until they hit the track. They are hitting the track tomorrow, it should be mentioned, at Silverstone. Both Lance and Seb will get to drive that car, but really we won't see it in anger until we get to Bahrain next week. Heavens. Lawrence, thank you, mate. As always, only a couple more of these to go now. Thank you for your input, for your insights. Thank you, folks, for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one.